Recording in progress.
Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Vav. So yesterday we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. I apologize to those who were not able to make it there, but fortunately fortunately we're available on the Zoom on the Zoom app, so you could have followed there. Fine. Yes, you don't need to pause. You was yeah, so watch it.
Yet to find it on YouTube. Does it record?
Aish's mamzer the mamzer. So our Mishnah says that a wife of a mamzer, she's married to a mamzer, and there was no isser. So we say over there that the sota does work. She was mutter, to marry him, and mamzeris and a mamzer. So Gemara says pshita. I don't know, like 10 lines from the bottom. So Gemara says pshita. So Malach Zema Chav Vav Amar Aleph. Thank you. So Malach Zema Wojib said Afrushi psulim lo lifush. We don't want to increase psulim, and therefore we say like this: that maybe in a case of sota, we want to prevent the increase of mamzerus. So therefore, if we say that, hey, you're not subject to drinking, you're warned, you're seen secluded, and therefore you gotta, you have to divorce her. So that would decrease mamzerus. So Kamash Malon, we don't say that Aisha's mamzer would go ahead and drink. And Aisha's ger v'evid meshuchrar, right? And then the Bach takes out the violence because it's not discussing this. So the Gemara says Aisha's ger v'evid meshuchrar. So it says pshita. It's obvious that why would you think that the sota, the waters do not work with them? So Ma'adim said Daber al b'nei Yisrael. It says b'nei Yisrael v'le ger. So Kamash Malon that they are included. So the Gemara says it's pretty good limit v'ema achinami. So when it says no, v'amarta, without what you say, v'amarta leim is a ribu. That's a ribu in the pasuk to include even avadim and meshukar and ger, and Aisha's kain sheisa v'chulei. So Gemara says
so the wife of a ger is not included in a parsha. That what you're saying?
That was the havamina.
Oh, that was
a havamina. Kamash Malon that they do drink. They're regular. So Aisha's kain sheisa, and also the wife of a kohen, she drinks. So Gemara says pshita. It's obvious. Why would you think the wife of a kohen does not go ahead and drink? So Wojib said asura. If she wasn't forced, then she's asur. But she was forced, then muteris, right? So in a normal case of a woman, we say that if she was with another man, she wasn't forced. So it sounds like, but if she was forced, then she's mutter. But in the case of an Aisha's Kohen, but in a case of Aisha's Kohen, right? If a wife of a Kohen is violated even against her will, he is usher to her as if, right, any other Yisrael was married to a woman who did it, b'ratzon. So if Zovi is pasa asura, maybe she's not subject to drinking at all. So Kamash Malon, then she has to go ahead and drink. Right. Next case. All right. So umuteris labal. Then we say Aisha's Kohen drinks. She's okay. Okay, you can go back to your husband. So the Gemara says pshita. It's obvious. We're talking about a case where all of a sudden she starts to show some ailments, right? Deterioration from the drinking. So the Gemara says misnabna. Well, if that's the case, the water's working, and then because of this chusim, whatever it is, so then she should be usher. Understand what's going on here? So our answer is no, that it's not the typical or that which it's not the stomach starts to bloat in their thighs and in their eyes and all that. None of that begins to happen. It's other things, right? She has other ailments, right? Her arms or whatever it is. So Mojib said Hazanai. Maybe you'd say she was involved in relations, and then maybe that the reason why the water, right, is not checking her is because it is something which was einus, right? And therefore, however, einus zana, it was against her will, she was mizana, legabi kohen asir, and therefore maybe against the kohen is asir. So the havmina is that maybe the water, right, gave her different ailments because maybe she was violated against her will, and therefore maybe she should be usher to her husband. So
Well-
Kamash Malon, that the water does not check, right? Even by the Ashes Cohen, anything that was done against her will. The water only checks by case of Avera. If she's done something Beratzon. But if something was not done Beratzon, so therefore, then the water wouldn't have an effect. And the eye, that which she has ailments on her arms or whatever it is, or feet or toes, whatever it is, something that was not part of the curse of the Mesota, that is just merely coincidental. Kamash Malon, she's mutter her husband.
Right, שמות עליו לבשר על הכל.
Right,
It
but in
gets
this case,
it.
but the Mesota would not check that. The Mesota
Right,
just
right. It's
checks
just
for
an
an
Avera,
Avera, right, for an Avera, right. And Ashes Sris Shaisa, and the wife of Sris, right, the man who is, I guess, sterile, Shaisa, she drinks a pshito. It's obvious. About the emojis, the body ishech, right? Besides, she was with a man besides her husband. Amar Achman of a high love bar hafilu, and this man is not really right. He's not, he's not a man who's shachi with his wife. He can't give her children, and then therefore maybe such a person, you would say, is excluded from the parsha of Sota Kamash Malon, that Sris is just like any other man. And then we said he can go ahead and warn her for her father, her brother, any sort of arayas. So Gemara says pshita. That's obvious. Why would you think that's not the case? So Madzeh just said nitma shnei pamim. It says nitma 2 times. Echad lebal v'echad lebal. So now as we go ahead and says now she becomes tmeya, and we learn from there that now she becomes aser lebal and aser lebal. Hey, bahaznus. And I was coming to teach you that this snus is answering her on her husband and on the man. But if the case, let's say it was a rayas, let's say it was a brother, but maybe this isser of being with another man while she committed adultery doesn't answer to her brother. She's already answered to her brother. So maybe you think maybe you think it would not work. Kamash Malon, that even a man could go ahead and warn her even on one of her relatives. And then we said chutz min hakotin, any of the rayas except for a kotin. So why is that? So isha marachmana v'lei kotin. It says it has to be a man and not a kotin. And then it says chutz min hakotin v'she'eno ish. What is v'she'eno ish? The miyutei mai. What does that come to exclude? So now let's figure this out. If we're talking about somebody was shachuf. Let's say he warned her against a man who's shachuf, who can't have children. So I've Omar Shmuel shachuf maknel yadoi upaisa b'truma. That Shmuel stated a farish that you can go ahead and warn her. Hey, you cannot, be. I don't want you to be, secluded with this guy who is a shachuf, who is a sterile, impotent, right? And not only that, you can warn her to be against it. And also, if he is a mezana with a woman, right? So we know that if different women are mezana with people, so let's say someone who's a bas kohen, right? So if she stam had a rayas, she wasn't married or anything, and she was, she was nivelas with a regular guy, so she's not considered to be a zona, right? And therefore, she's not possible truma to go ahead and eat. But if she is with somebody who is now forbidden to her, okay, then that makes her into a zona. That makes her, now she's no longer subject to that. So such a person, right, a shachuf is paisel b'truma, right? He passes over in truma. So first, let's explain this right. So we already, discarded the potential that she'eno ish to be a shachuf, but now let's understand this brisa. So first of all, al yada, he can go ahead and warn her. So pshita ma'al temojis avishach ish isa shitbazer. It says of shitbazer amarachmana b'hala barhachihu. And this man is impotent, and therefore he's not a baal shitbazer. So maybe he can't go ahead and warn her to stay away from him. Kamash, what he does. Upaisel b'truma, and he also passes b'truma. Why? So it says, where it says pshita. It's obvious because this person is not a roy lavod b'kahal. So ma'al temojis said lo yichal zara. Amrachman, right? In other words, he shouldn't go ahead and profane your zaro. Amrachmana, the isle zera lichala, right? So the double lamon over there, maybe you think that he who has zera, right, he would cause to be mischalel a bas kohen. The less is there, but someone who there's no zer lo yachal, it would not be mechalel, right? Because he can't be mechalel the children, and therefore because there are no children, because he can't have children, and therefore it wouldn't be mechalel her. So kamash malon, that nevertheless such a person is mechalel her. Now going back to the question, what does she'eno ish mean? Maybe she'eno ish means you can go ahead and warn her someone who's not a man, meaning avikachavim, a non-Jew. You can go ahead and warn your wife to not be secluded with an Avi Chavim. And not only that, but Truma also passes a bas kohen from a Truma. So, and how do you know these halachas? So Maknel Yado Pshita. So it's obvious. Why would you think otherwise that you can't go ahead and warn her for him? What would you say? Nitma shnei pamim. It says nitma 2 times. Echel abal v'echel aboil. Right. In other words, that she would now become usher from this Maisa of when she was Nisteras, or she was right. She would become usher to her husband and usher to the Baal. And Heichadik Mazazah Habas Nus. And it's only from this Nus that would usher upon this man. But this but since he was already usher to her, he's not ushering to her through this Nus, he's usher because the Avi Chavim. Aim alone. Maybe I would say you can't go ahead and warn a wife to stay away from a Avi Chavim, from Ashmalan, that you can. And then we said Upaisa Truma. So Gemara says, Pshit, that's obvious. She's with the Avi Chavim and she passed with Truma. So what would you have thought? What was the Havmina? It says Ubas Kohen. Kisiya li'ish zar, right? You use the word kisiya, right? Havya, right? Lashon of kedushin, right? So Amar Rachmana, debar havya in the la bar havya lo. Maybe it only means that when you passel, right, when she is with havya ish zar, when she is kedushin with an ish zar, but avei kachavim, where there is no kedushin, maybe I would say that he does not pass. But Shuma kamash malon. The pasal, Rabbi Yochanan comes to teach you that the limit from Rabbi Yochanan that she is pasal shuma. And what did Rabbi Yochanan say? Rabbi Yochanan shum Rabbi Shmuel minayla avikachavim ve'eved shabo al kohenes v'alavia v'albas Yisrael shapaslu. We already know that avikachavim or an eved that was ba al kohenes or lavia or any Jew that he passes her. Shinam pasuk says. Ubas Kohen Kisiya Almana Grusha. So it says a Bas Kohen, when she is a Almana Grusha with no kids, then she can go back to her father's house to eat Truma because she had no kids. So Mishi Yeshla Almana Spikarusha, right? It's only somebody who she was possible to have to be a widow from or to be divorced from, i.e., she was married to. So Yatsu Avikacham Eved Sheila Almana Spikarusha. So this would go ahead and exclude Rabbi Kachavim and Eved because there is no marriage to them, and therefore they are, and therefore they would, right? Such a case, they would go ahead and passel her from Truma. So the Elul Mutemai. So rather, what does Sheina Ish come to exclude? So an animal. He warns to stay away from our dog. That there is no znus by behemoth. But that's right. But that does not make her right. That's not a nice. That's not a mice that subjects a woman to mesot. Enachanami is isser in it, right? But it's not something that subjects her to drinking the sota water. And Omar le Rava mi Parizaki le Ravashi Saminahan Milsa Hadidama Rabbanan Ain Snus behema. How do you know there's nothing as snus with a behema? I'm even more concerned as the rest of the Gemara. So let's see. So Ain Snus behema. How do you know that? See, the pasuk says. So there's a prohibition that one, if he goes ahead and pays a harlot, a zona, for her services, and let's say he gives her a sheep, an animal, so that animal is not allowed to go ahead and be used as a karma, right? Also, mechir kelev, something that was sold for a dog, right? V'tanya, we learned it by so esnan kelev mechir zayna mutarim. What if the opposite? So esnan kelev is if esnan kelev is a case if that person says to a zona, right, take this sheep and go ahead and my dog is lonely and have relations with my dog, and your payment will be a sheep. Okay, so that is called esnan kelev, right? Now, umechir, right? Umechir zona, and mechir zona, all right, is a case of where he had a shifcha who was a zona, right, and he basically exchanged for her services, right? So he got there was a sheep that was given. So these cases are mutarim. Right? Shinam Maris says Gam Shnehem. It says only two of them. In other words, Esnan Kelev, right? Excuse me, Esnan Zona Mechir Kelev. only those two are usher, right? And not the opposite of Esnan Kalev Mechir Zon of Loy Arba. So therefore you see that what? If she has relations with a sheep and the payment, with his dog, and the payment was a sheep, that sheep was not considered to be something that was an exchange for znus. And therefore that is mutter for a carbon.
So there's no, so you gotta do yichud with the.
It's not called snus. It's not called snus, and therefore it doesn't pass the korban. And therefore, in our case,
Dog versus a.
no. Any animal. No. The sheep was the payment, but that payment, if the payment was for a woman having relations with an animal, that payment is not considered payment for snus, because that's person to
The
animal.
gift of man to man, that's considered.
Right. But it was right. But the gift, right. But the gift of man to animal is not considered to be a gift for snus, and therefore it's mutter the korban. So therefore, you see that it's not called znus in this case. So Ella, it's no. I mean, there's another passage. There's Masam Kasus, right? Where it calls the relations, right? There's by a chamor, right? So it says that the zera of right, but actually that's by a guy, but the animal, right? Zubas chamor, but that's by an animal, right? Or excuse me, by abik chavim. But we see that it's not considered to be znus. Znus only between human to human.
So it's completely fine.
It's not completely fine, but the korban is not. It's not called snus. It's not in the parsha of sota. Right. It's not right. It does not halachically qualify. Now,
Stomach's turning. Let's go.
hello, oh my rabba.
Chicken.
I know. Excuse me. I skipped. So it says, the Ella Shechla Zera Lamali. So that's the case. What we brought this passage earlier, Shechla Zera Lamali. Mibayle Likitanya Shechla Zera Prat Davar Acher. So Shechla Zera means Prat Davar Acher. That you don't excludes Davar Acher. You don't warn regarding Davar Acher. So my Davar Acher. What is Davar Acher? So Amarav Sheshes Prat L'Shekina La Shalei Kedarka. So he warns her: do not seclude yourself with Bab. Right, for bia shaloi kadarka, right, for irregular bia. So Amarle Rava shaloi kadarka. What do you mean shaloi kadarka? Mishkva Isha. See, that is part of bia. It says Mishkva Isha. That is considered to be bia. It's not. It's considered to be bia.
It's not the Gedarka.
No, but all of them are included.
This one is also.
It's included. No. So it's included.
Are you encouraging this? Come on.
that-
You can't have a child out of that.
So therefore,
Right,
no, but it's
exactly.
considered to
That's
be
the
bia.
point.
But it's considered to be bia. It's mishkva isha, right? Mishkva is lashon plural, so not only kedarka, but even shaloi kedarka. Both of them would aser her to her husband. Salam arava prala shekina la derech evarim. So he says no. He warns her derech evarim. In other words, let's say the two of them are clothed, but there's one is upon the other. So Abaye, well, that's not bia. Even if he warns her for that, why should that assert to her husband? Why should that subject her to meisota? The Torah doesn't assert priestess; it assers shchiva, right? Bia. Right. Rather, he warns her for Neshikas Aver. Right. Neshikas Aver means when there is a contact between the two private parts. So right. Ha'ara, no, the tchilas bia is when the atara enters right into the female of on the shika, but just mere contact v'loy klumi, and therefore mere contact is nothing. Hainadasi kralam yut in the shika. Therefore, the pasuk can come and exclude the shika is not subject to mesota. Only ha'ara, which is hachnasa atara, that is included, right? Elaman the other man there says ha'araza neshika, that ha'ara, which is tchilas bia, is even just contact right between the man and the woman. So ma'ikalamim. Or when you say then, in other words, if it's considered to be bia, then his warning for neshika saver should qualify as a warning. Ma'ikalamim. So the Gemara says you're right. Really, it's even derech evarim when it could be closed or clothed, right? If that's the case, so why would you think that he can go ahead and warn her for that? What's the having to think that would even work? It's not bia, right? So Ma'od Demojis have a the Baal tell you Rahman that maybe it has to do with that part of the with the husband. The husband is makbid, right? Strangely enough, the husband was makbid in such a case, right? Baal copied, and therefore, since the husband is makbid in this case, maybe that would subject her to drink mesota kamash malon. That if he just warns her derech evarim, then that is not kamash malon. That is not considered to be a full warning. All right, we'll stop here. Tomorrow, we will continue.